Brad, episode 2.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
What's up, man? You good?
Yeah, doing great. Had a busy week, but it's been good. Glad it's Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. Although business never sleeps, man. We got people moving in on the weekends and all kinds of stuff. So what's your go-to? How do you check out on the weekends, man? What does a good weekend look like for you?
It's hard. You're right. It's hard to check out even on the weekends, but just enjoying time with the family. Maybe a boat, maybe it's golfing. You know, doing. Try to do some. Get into the hobbies that I enjoy.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in, man. We talked about this a little bit on the last episode, but we're going to go a little deeper dive into basically how RV housing, how we take the stress out of housing placements, specifically for our reps, our insurance reps, our housing agencies. It's really important to us to simplify that process, making their jobs easier, and ultimately serving the insured well, right? We want them to have a comfortable, safe place on their property,
Yep.
so they can. You talked about this last episode, so they can be on site if they need to oversee the construction project, or if they need to take care of their animals, or they live in a place where their kids, for whatever reason, need to stay close to the home or the site. There's a lot of different reasons why RVs make sense, but let's just dive in a little bit today on specifically how does the RV housing group take the stress out of housing placement. So, from your perspective, what are some challenges that insurance reps have when just arranging temporary housing in general?
Yeah, well, I mean, temporary housing in general, think just overall, it's knowledge, right? It's
Hmm.
it's when you haven't been in the industry a long time, it's you don't know what you don't know. So,
Right.
I think that's where for what we do with on-site housing, for sure that's where we bring value because we're the experts, man. And this is what we do. This is all that we do,
Right.
and so just kind of allowing us to jump in and get our get our hands dirty with them, right? And really get on the phone with their clients and help explain the process, and that way nothing's missed. You know what I mean? And we're very thorough, and I think that's where we kind of bring value as well when we come alongside our partners and our clients.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff, man. And I know even just today you've been on the phone with clients and just making sure that people are being well taken care of. I mean, that's something that you have a team that does that, but also you'll get in there too because it's important to you that everyone's being taken care of, and we're
Yep.
serving both our reps and the insured really well. Um, we talked about this a little bit last time, but just go through it again real quick. Just how does RV Housing Group, how do we simplify that process just from start to finish for a rep that might be listening or watching?
Yeah, I mean, the benefit of doing business with us is that we'll do everything, really. I mean, if they let us,
Hmm.
right? We will kind of handle everything from the beginning, getting in touch with the insured, right? Um, gathering all the information from their property, the situation that they're in. Maybe there's some special needs that we need to be taking care of and thinking about, right? And so it's just really being thorough and
Hmm.
us knowing, really what we already know what we're getting into. You've done this enough, although
Right.
every situation is a little bit different. You've done this enough. You kind of you kind of know what to expect, right? So
Sure.
so I think that's really where we bring value is just allowing us to be the experts, right?
Hmm.
And sometimes that's half the battle because it's hard, and I certainly understand as a business owner, you don't necessarily want to let go of the reins completely,
Yep.
um, but I think that I think that there's a good reason why, and I think at the end when we are allowed to kind of take the reins and control the process a little bit more, that's when we see things go off without a hitch more often.
Yeah. Well, and there's a very detailed questionnaire and just kind of vetting process through that where and I know a lot of times our insurance reps do this as well, but as just kind of like another safety net, we go through our own process, as you were saying, just to make
Hmm.
sure that we know
Yep.
all the specific needs. There's no surprises. and we communicate that back to the housing reps and housing agencies, so they know every little thing about the insured that might be using the RV. And on that note, talk a little bit about just the how, but also the why behind our communication process. You know, something client communication is super important to us. You've trained your team here on how to stay proactive in communication. And I don't want to steal your thunder here, but one thing I've noticed is the way we operate is our reps don't have to wait on us to hear about what's going on. We try to be proactive so they don't ever have to wonder
Yeah.
what's happening with an insured. They're getting real-time updates on what's happening. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, and I like back up just a tad. In for those that allow us to kind of take the reins, right? We're going to be very forthright in our communication with them, right? And all of our findings and all of the details and all those things. And yeah, most of the time we're going to, be ahead of them
Mhm.
by getting them that information. They're not going to have to ask us for it. We already know what they need, and so, yeah, I mean, in that process, just allowing us to do that, we're going to get them all of the notes, all of the pertinent details of the situation that we're getting into. And we're going to uncover potential, issues, potential red flags. Maybe there's some things that the insured is thinking about that they're that they have questions about, right, that maybe the rep may not know how to answer. So and all of that stuff is going to be communicated, right? So we're going to send the emails and really over communicate all of these notes that we're going to take from the insured at that time.
Yeah. Walk us through a typical um timeline. And even as I say that, I know there's not a typical timeline, but just what is a timeline like during the placement? What does that look like so reps know what to expect?
Yeah, I mean, so once we get the request for a quote, you have obviously an insured that's displaced, and they're potentially thinking about going to on-site housing. The timeline from there is like we've just talked about, gathering all the information, right?
Mhm.
Seeing how their property is set up, what it looks like. Do they have power, water, and sewage there? And then from there, it's going to be to get with the insured on all of those things to make sure that we can get them set up for the trailer, right? And then once we get all of that done, that sometimes that can take days, sometimes
Mhm.
that can take weeks, depending on whether they have power on at the home or not. But we're obviously staying, we're in control of that situation and staying in contact with the insured and the rep as well. But from there, as far as let's assume the property's ready to go, right,
Mhm.
and everything, have power, water, sewage, all that stuff. I mean, from there, we're usually no more than a couple of days when we can get a unit out there and delivered and set up for them.
Yeah. And usually from the time it's all approved and there's a green light for us to actually be able to serve this insured, I mean, oftentimes within the hour of receiving that final confirmation, we're on the phone with the insured going through the checklist and the process. So there's just not tons of delay between when someone gives us a thumbs up, yeah, let's go, let's do this,
No,
and us jumping in. And that's something I know you're real passionate about. Even if we can't get on the phone with that within the hour, we're at least shooting a text or an email or leaving a voicemail saying, hey,
yeah,
we're introducing ourselves and we're saying that we'd love to get on the phone with you at your earliest convenience and begin to talk
hmm,
with that person. So there's just no lag time. And that's the kind of the beauty of our of having a team, right? And what you've built here
hmm,
is we have people available. You're not going to wait 24 hours. You're not even going to wait 12 hours to hear
no,
from someone on our team before we begin this process, because we know there's so many things that need to happen along the way. And every little thing, if it starts setting you back a few days, like say we got to get electric, some power out there, we got to get sewage, whatever,
yeah,
each one of those things could be a setback. Well, we don't want the insured waiting, a couple months, a month, even a few weeks
sure,
by the time they get to us. A lot of times, just getting through the insurance, they've already been waiting a few weeks by the time we even get to have a
right,
conversation with them.
yep,
So we talked about this before. A lot of time we're acting as like amateur therapists because they're ready. By the time they
right,
get to us, they're
right,
like, please get this RV out immediately. I want to settle in. So
Yeah.
that's a big part of what we do.
No, for sure, and we're thinking through that already, right, on the front end. We're kind of assuming, in some ways, of what we're gonna be dealing with, and a lot of times, it's accurate. So we're just kind of always working ahead and thinking ahead, and that allows us to be really proactive, and then at the same time, we have units available. We're kind of already thinking, "Okay, what unit, based on our conversation with the insured, what unit's gonna work the best for them and their situation and their family needs." And then from there, so we have a unit kind of earmarked for them, and from there it's just making sure the property is ready to go, which we're thinking ahead on that as well. And then there's like, okay, hey, they're ready, let's get that unit out there, and we're not waiting,
Yep.
5, 6, 7 days a week, who knows, but
Yep.
that unit's ready to go. We've already kind of uh put everything in place to get it out there to them.
Yeah, in that same regard, talk about the importance of just maintaining transparency with the insurance reps throughout that whole process. So as we're doing that, we're placing them in the right unit for them based on their needs, and we're getting water, sewer, whatever they need to be equipped. Talk about just transparency during that process.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, man, it's that we are just letting them know every detail, right? I mean, we are over communicating everything because we don't want them to have to reach out to us, right?
Yep.
And I kind of operate on under the mindset of, if they have to reach out to us, we're probably not doing our job right, and that's kind of what I preach to the team. If we stay ahead of them, then they're never really going to reach out to us. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so that's how we try to do it. I'm not going to say, it's always perfect in that regard, but that's certainly how we try to do things, is to just really over communicate, be very detailed. We keep great notes in our
Hmm.
files, and we're always better for that, right? Because if anything comes up, any questions, or he says, she said, we always have date and timestamp notes in our system that we can go back to and say, hey, no, actually, we sent this here on this date,
Yeah.
right? And that, that happens sometimes, and so it's important that we communicate very well and effectively, and that our notes are just
Hmm.
incredibly accurate.
And we want to set our reps up to win too. So if they ever get a question or a call or email from the insured, they're not having to chase us for like they are able to
No, for
answer
sure.
intelligently and say,
Right.
"Hey, actually, we're on
Yeah.
top of that," or "I know about that." So
Yep.
that's a big part of it too. Is just making sure they know, just in case they get a question, they're not having to chase that stuff.
Yep,
Um,
for sure.
speaks to customer service. I want to highlight this, probably highlight this in a bit of every episode, just because it's really important and core to who we are. But like when it comes
Yep.
to customer service, how does RV Housing Group stand out when it comes to that thing, as far as, when a rep is using us, what can they come to expect when it comes to customer service?
Well, they can expect their client, which would, the insured, right? They can expect that they're going to be treated just like we would treat somebody in our family that was in their situation. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, that's really how that's kind of how I am wired, when it comes to
Yep.
customer service. It's like, man, just treat them like I would treat a family member, or a good friend, and obviously we all know that they're dealing with a situation, in being displaced, that's, uncomfortable,
Mhm.
abnormal, right? Just certainly not what they're used to, and they weren't ready for. And so, it's just really, kind of taking them under our wing, as if they were a family member, and holding their hand along the way, trying to guide them, trying to encourage them. I mean, gosh, like you said, it's almost like, at times we're a therapist, right? I mean, we have these people that, man, they will just, sometimes they just, kind of overflow with emotion on the
Yeah.
phone, and, how do we deal with that? Right. So we're ready to deal with that. And we deal with that with empathy and encouragement, and,
Mhm.
just trying to care for them, right, as
Mhm.
we would somebody in our family. And so I think if we, if we continue to do things that way, I know we already hear from so many of our clients that, that they feel that, but, oftentimes in running a business, and having a business, and especially growing a business, some of those things get lost.
Mhm.
And, we've all experienced it, right? A business that opens, and at the beginning, gosh, the owners are there. Everything is, just over the top from a customer service perspective. But then they get complacent, they get comfortable, and
Mhm.
it's like, that experience that I came to love so much, and is what drew me back to going to that, that place, just doesn't seem to be there anymore. And I just
Mhm.
don't want to be that company, man. I want to make sure that we don't ever get complacent, that we
Right.
strive every day, that we wake up every single day, my team, myself, that we wake up every single day with the mentality that we are going to do just as good today as we did yesterday.
Yeah. Dude, that's great. I think that's a great place to tie a bow on this episode here. Before I let you go though, I love because I know you so well and you're a dreamer, you're a visionary. When you think about the future of RV Housing Group and our partnerships with these insurance reps, what are some things that you're dreaming about? Maybe even some, I don't know if there's changes or ways you want to continue to improve our relationship and how we serve these agencies.
Yeah, look, as you know, I'm always thinking through how we can just be better, right? And
Mhm.
not, and even more better, like, quite frankly, I want to be the best.
Mhm.
And so that's really what drives and motivates me, is trying to figure out how we can be the very best for our clients, right? So where our clients don't ever have to question, why they're dealing with us, or do we want to continue to deal with RV Housing Group because this or this or this, right? It's a no-brainer. Like, when they're in meetings, when they're talking amongst each other, you know, that RV Housing Group is like the cream of the crop. We're the
Mhm.
go-to, man. Like, hey, you don't want to use any other company because there's just not a better one to use, right?
Mhm.
And so I don't know that, I don't necessarily want to get into specifics of what are in the plans and in the works, but me obviously, and you can bet that I am thinking of
Mhm.
things and ways to just be better. You know what I mean? And that's,
Right.
when we were talking about complacency and not getting that right. I mean, that's what drives me, is how can we continue to be better? And if we do that and have that mentality, I think that complacency really can exist or
Yeah.
coexist with that mentality.
Well, and here's one thing because I do know you, and I would encourage the reps that are listening to this or watching. I would say if you have feedback for how something could be done better, or if there's a frustration that you're experiencing in the process at all, have a conversation with us. I mean, reach out because what I've
Absolutely.
seen you in action is you love feedback and you love the ability to pivot and change and modify what we do to better serve the needs so that we can be the best
That's
at what
right.
we do.
Hmm.
So if someone's listening, I'm like, yeah, I have these stumbling blocks or these hurdles, these frustrations. Man, let's have that conversation because there's a really good chance we can figure out a way to partner together to overcome some of those things.
Right. And this is, yeah, I mean, we're by no means like a one size fits all,
Hmm.
company. It's like, hey, different clients do business in different ways, right? And so we'll tailor things differently if we
Hmm.
have to, right? Which we've proven to do. So yeah, by all means, man, I welcome feedback, even if it's
Yeah.
not, not great. We're always going to look at how we're doing things, especially if we get feedback, and say, hey, how can we be better? And there's no better way to find that out than from our clients to tell us.
Yeah. Brad, good stuff, man. Next episode, we're going to be diving into debunking the myths around on-site RV housing. A lot of myths out there, a lot of misconceptions,
Oh
and
yeah.
so I can't wait to hear what you say on that. But man, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'll talk soon. Appreciate it.